We want to get back to our breaking story involving NBC's two kings of comedy, Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien. As we told you a few minutes ago, the New York Times this evening says NBC is moving Leno back to late night, where he's going to host a show at 11:35 p.m., only for half an hour, though. The Times says Conan will then be pushed back to 12:05, followed by Jimmy Fallon an hour later. Now, the Times adds that NBC executives have not yet made a final decision on the plan, but if it's true, it marks a stunning reversal at 30 Rock, which last year, in a massive media blitz, gave Leno his own 10 p.m. primetime show. It was a calculated move, a money-saving one, but the ratings for Leno and Conan plummeting. The network reportedly pulled the plug on what some are calling a colossal mistake. NBC issued a statement this afternoon saying, quote, Jay Leno is one of the most compelling entertainers in the world today. As we have said all along, Jay's show has performed exactly as we anticipated on the network. It has, however, presented some issues for our affiliates. Both Jay and the show are committed to working closely with them to find ways to improve their performance. In a separate statement, NBC said, we have the best comedy team in the business. We remain committed to keeping Conan O'Brien on NBC. He's a valued part of our late night lineup, as he has been for more than 16 years, and is one of the most respected entertainers on television. Very carefully worded statements, you'll notice, for what many see as a costly failure. Up close tonight, here's Tom Foreman.
Leno's September move was nothing short of seismic for network TV. In an instant, he was moved from his proven base of power, 5 million viewers in late night, to turn NBC's final hour of primetime every evening to talk.
I am thrilled to have you as my very first guest.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
NBC thought it might reap a windfall. Talk shows are cheaper to produce than dramas. Leno could and did draw a steady stream of big names, and with the larger audience at that hour, big profits could follow. But LA Times TV critic Mary McNamara says after a huge debut, Leno nosedived to last place.
Yeah, I mean, what did he fall from? 18 million tuned in for the first, and then I think he dropped to what, I don't know, 7 or something within a couple of weeks. It was pretty staggering.
Other networks smelled blood as popular shows and new arrivals surpassed Leno's ratings. Soon, local TV stations across the country were nervously suggesting Leno was not leading enough viewers into their late newscast, hurting their ratings and profits.
Every single network has had one or two like really solid shows emerge, and there sits, you know, NBC with egg on its face.
If that were not bad enough,
It's the Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien. Every time I got you.
Leno's replacement, Conan O'Brien, was supposed to lead the legendary Tonight Show into a new decade of glory. But instead, he stumbled, losing half of Leno's former audience.
I hit my head so hard that for 5 seconds I actually understood the plot of Lost.
And in an almost Shakespearean twist, the late-night entertainment winner has become a man who was passed over for the Tonight Show job years ago, David Letterman on CBS.
It's the Late Show with Dave.
Letterman used to chase Leno in the ratings, but now, despite even a sex scandal, he is pulling up to 2 million more viewers than Conan on any given night.
Now, my response to that is, yes, I have.
So for NBC, the expected win-win-win has become a lose-lose-lose. And in the high-stakes world of television, that usually means call the moving vans. Tom Foreman, CNN, Washington.
Well, let's dig deeper. Joining me, Ken Auletta, who's the media writer for The New Yorker and the author of the new book, Googled, The End of the World as We Know It. Ken, Jay Leno famously said back in 1993, the height of the frenzy over the future of The Tonight Show back then, he said that NBC stands for never believe your contract. It's kind of amazing that, I mean, he finds himself, and maybe Conan O'Brien finds himself in the same situation. Were you surprised to hear all this?
Stunned.
Stunned.
I mean, for a network to have put as much effort and promise into moving Leno to 10 o'clock and replacing him with Conan O'Brien, and then after half a season to potentially cancel it, which it appears that they may do, which may also mean canceling Conan O'Brien, I mean, that's like shooting yourself in the mouth.
How could NBC possibly spin that? I mean, will they just, do you think, admit that this whole thing was a big mistake?
I don't know how they don't admit that, in effect. I mean, they won't say that. They'll say this is a great move and we're making money, which they've been saying. They said today that we have achieved our goals with Jay Leno. Now, if you believe that, I've got a bridge I'd like to sell you.
They say essentially, well, look, the ratings for his show are kind of what we expected, and because it's a cheaper show to produce than these expensive 10 o'clock hour-long dramas, you know, we're saving money. But the flip side of that is that it's decimating local stations' newscasts, which come on after the Leno show at 11, and they're losing a ton of money, right?
They're not only losing a ton of money on the local stations, which is the chief money makers, the 11 o'clock news, but it means that the lead-in for Conan O'Brien's show at 11:30 is weaker because the news ratings are down for the 11 o'clock news, which also explains why Conan O'Brien is 2 million viewers behind Letterman now, when in fact Leno is beating Letterman.
How did they get into this position where, I mean, Jay Leno was doing really well in the ratings. When he was on the Tonight Show at 11:30, he was beating David Letterman. Why did they take him off the air and put Conan O'Brien? It was some sort of a deal that they had made with Conan O'Brien years ago, right?
It was, and they thought that Conan O'Brien appealed to a younger audience and was a hip guy and a funny guy with a different sense of humor, a more quirky sense of humor. And they thought that would broaden the appeal of the Tonight Show, particularly to a younger audience that was more internet savvy, etc. It hasn't worked out so far. Now, you have to give time to these things, but apparently they're not going to give it time. And one of the interesting questions here, Anderson, you have a new owner coming in, Comcast of NBC. One of the things that Comcast is interested in is content that is repeated on many different platforms. One of the problems with the 10 o'clock Leno show, it's not repeatable. They don't repeat very well. Programs like ER do repeat very well. So I would think that the new owners of NBC might not be very happy about this.
It's a fascinating development, as you said, stunning. Ken Aletta, appreciate you being on. Thanks.
My pleasure.